Life is full of surprises. Some days bring happiness, others bring storms. But what separates people who rise above challenges from those who break under pressure is not luck, not talent, not even intelligence. It is the ability to stay calm when everything around them is falling apart. Today, I want to talk about how you can train your mind to stay calm in any situation. Because the calm mind is the strongest weapon you can ever have in this unpredictable world. The power of calmness. Calmness is one of the most misunderstood qualities in life. When people hear the word calm, many imagine someone passive, slow to act, or perhaps even indifferent to what is happening around them. But the truth is, calmness is not about being passive. It is about being in control. It is the art of standing tall in the middle of life's storms, the ability to think clearly when the world around you is losing its balance. Calmness does not mean you do nothing. It means you are strong enough not to be shaken by everything. And in a world where noise, chaos, and pressure are constant companions, this ability becomes one of the most powerful assets you can ever develop. Think about it, the times in your life when panic took over. How did it feel? Your heart raced, your thoughts became messy, and decisions felt impossible. Panic clouds the mind, it blocks wisdom and forces people to react blindly rather than respond wisely. Yet when you stay calm, something magical happens, the noise quiets down, your thinking sharpens, and you begin to see paths that were invisible before. Calmness becomes the bridge between problems and solutions, between confusion and clarity. You see this in nature all the time. The surface of a stormy ocean is wild, chaotic, and dangerous. But deep beneath the waves, the water remains calm and still, no matter how violent the storm above becomes. That deep layer represents the power of calmness within you. Life will always have storms on the surface. Financial struggles, family conflicts, career setbacks, unexpected losses. But if you can cultivate that deeper calm, you will never be swept away by the waves. And here's the fascinating part, calmness is contagious. When you remain steady in difficult situations, people around you feel it. Imagine two people stuck in the same crisis. One is panicking, running in circles, shouting, making mistakes. The other is calm, thinking, speaking slowly, observing carefully before acting. Who would you trust to lead you out of that crisis? Always the calm one, because calmness communicates strength. It says, I am not controlled by the situation, I control my response to it. That is why great leaders from history to modern times practice calmness like a discipline. They know people naturally follow the one who keeps a clear head when everyone else is losing theirs. Calmness also protects your energy. So many people waste emotional strength on things they cannot control, reacting to every small irritation, every negative comment, every piece of bad news. It is like running through life with your emotional doors wide open, letting the world storm in and take over your peace. But when you train yourself to stay calm, you start choosing what deserves your reaction and what does not. You learn to pause before exploding in anger, to breathe before drowning in stress, to think before making decisions you might regret later. This emotional discipline becomes your shield in a world that constantly tries to provoke you. What makes calmness truly powerful is that it gives you time, and time gives you wisdom. In moments of pressure, most people rush, they speak too soon, act too fast, and later wish they could rewind. Calmness slows you down just enough to see the full picture before you take the next step. That pause, that moment of clarity, often makes the difference between failure and success, between a mistake and a breakthrough. It transforms problems into puzzles instead of disasters, allowing you to approach life not as a victim of chaos, but as a master of your own reactions. One of the greatest battles you will ever fight in life is the battle between your emotions and your decisions. Emotions are powerful. They rise like waves, often without warning, and when they come, they bring intensity, anger, fear, excitement, frustration, even joy. And while emotions are a natural part of being human, they can easily take the driver's seat if you are not careful. The problem is this: when emotions control decisions, clarity disappears. The heat of the moment convinces you to act quickly, to say things you may not mean, to make choices that feel right for a second, but leave behind regrets that last for years. Think back for a moment. How many times have you spoken words in anger, only to wish you could take them back the next day? How often have you made choices out of fear, quitting too soon, doubting yourself, avoiding opportunities, simply because the emotion of the moment whispered, you can't handle this? Or maybe it was excitement that tricked you, making you rush into something without thinking it through, because the feeling was so strong, so convincing that it drowned out reason. We have all been there. Emotions are loud, they demand attention. But what they often lack is accuracy. They tell us how we feel right now, but they do not always tell us what is true or wise in the long run. That is why calmness is so important. When you learn to stay calm, you create space between the emotion and the decision. You allow the initial fire to settle before you act. Imagine standing in a burning room. If you run without thinking, you might head straight into more danger. But if you pause for even a few seconds, you can find the safest exit. Life works the same way. A calm mind sees options that a panicked heart cannot. This is especially critical in moments of conflict. Two people in an argument rarely remember what was said calmly. They remember the hurtful words shouted in anger. Those words often come from emotions ruling the moment, not from what we truly want to communicate. Learning to stay calm allows you to speak with purpose rather than impulse, to respond in a way that moves the situation forward instead of tearing it apart. In the business world, this principle is even clearer. Deals fall apart because someone reacted emotionally instead of thinking strategically. Leaders lose trust because they make decisions based on fear of criticism rather than on facts and vision. Entire relationships, careers, and opportunities can crumble because emotions whispered lies like, "You're not good enough," or shouted warnings like, "It's too risky," when in reality, calm reflection would have revealed a better path. But here is the good news: staying calm does not mean you become emotionless. It does not mean you bury your feelings or pretend they do not exist. It means you acknowledge them without letting them control you. You can feel angry without making destructive choices. You can feel afraid without running away from opportunities. You can feel excited without rushing blindly into decisions. Calmness gives you the power to process emotions instead of being possessed by them. The truth is, emotions make wonderful messengers but terrible masters. They can alert you that something is wrong, but they should not be the ones deciding what happens next. That is your job. When you train your mind to stay calm, you place emotions in the passenger seat while wisdom, clarity, and long-term vision take the wheel. That is how you stop living life in reaction mode and start living it with intention and purpose. Many people look at someone who remains calm under pressure and think they are just born that way. It's their personality. I could never be like that. But this is one of the biggest myths about calmness. Staying calm is not a gift that only a few lucky people are born with. It is a skill, something that can be learned, practiced, and mastered over time, just like playing an instrument, learning a new language, or building physical strength in the gym. The problem is that most people never practice it intentionally. They wait until life throws a crisis at them, and only then do they realize they don't have the mental tools to handle it. But imagine if you started training your mind the same way athletes train their bodies. You would not just survive the storms of life, you would thrive through them. Think of the first time someone learns to swim. In the beginning, the water feels terrifying. Their body panics, arms flail, breathing becomes chaotic, and the fear of sinking takes over. But with time, guidance, and practice, something changes. The same water that once felt like an enemy becomes a place of confidence and control. They learn to float, to breathe, to move with rhythm instead of panic. Calmness works the same way. The situations that used to overwhelm you can become moments where you feel steady and composed. If you train for it, and training your mind for calmness doesn't require complicated rituals or years of isolation in the mountains. It starts in everyday moments, in the small frustrations of life that test your patience. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a coworker speaks to you rudely, when plans don't go the way you expected. These are not just annoyances, they are opportunities to practice. Each time you pause, breathe, and choose not to react instantly, you are training your mental muscles. At first, it feels difficult because the natural human response is to react. But the more you practice, the more automatic calmness becomes, until one day you realize situations that once triggered anger or panic no longer have the same power over you. This is why some of the most respected leaders and thinkers throughout history devoted time to practices like meditation, journaling, deep breathing, or silent reflection. These habits were not just spiritual or philosophical exercises, they were mental training. They were teaching the mind to slow down, to observe without reacting, to find clarity before making decisions. Because the truth is, a calm mind is a trained mind. It is not lazy, it is disciplined. It is not weak, it is focused. And the beautiful thing about treating calmness as a skill is that it gives hope to everyone. You might feel like an emotional person, someone who reacts quickly to stress or criticism. That does not mean you're doomed to live that way forever. Just as a shy person can learn public speaking, or an unfit person can learn to run marathons, you can learn to remain steady in chaos. The brain is adaptable. It rewires itself based on what you practice repeatedly. If you practice anger, anger will control you. If you practice calmness, calmness will guide you. Over time, as you develop this skill, people will notice the difference. They will see that while others panic, you remain composed. While others argue, you stay focused. And this is when calmness transforms from a private skill into a public strength. Something that not only changes your inner world, but also earns respect, trust, and influence in the outer world. Once you understand that calmness is a skill rather than a fixed personality trait, the next question naturally becomes, how do you train it? How do you transform this idea of inner peace into a practical habit, something that shows up in real moments of stress, frustration, or chaos? The truth is, calmness is not built in one grand moment of enlightenment. It is developed through small, consistent steps practiced over time. Just as an athlete trains daily before performing on the big stage, you must train your mind in ordinary situations so that when life brings extraordinary challenges, you are prepared rather than overwhelmed. The first step is learning the power of pausing before reacting. This sounds simple, almost too simple, but it is life-changing. Most people react instantly when emotions rise. They shout back when someone is rude. They send that angry text. They slam the door. They quit when things get hard. But a trained mind learns to pause, even if it is just for 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, you take a deep breath. You give your racing thoughts a chance to slow down, and you remind yourself that you do not have to be controlled by the emotion of the moment. This small gap between feeling and reacting is where wisdom lies. Over time, this habit turns chaos into clarity because you learn to respond with intention instead of impulse. The second step is building a daily ritual of mental stillness. The world today is filled with noise, notifications buzzing every second, people demanding your attention, news feeding you fear and drama. If you do not create moments of silence for yourself, your mind will never learn to rest. This does not have to be complicated. It can be 5 minutes of deep breathing in the morning, a short meditation before bed, or simply sitting quietly with no phone, no distractions, just focusing on your thoughts. These small moments are like pressing the reset button for your brain, allowing you to observe your emotions rather than drown in them. Over time, your mind learns that calmness is its natural state, not chaos. Another powerful practice is writing things down before reacting to them. When something frustrates you, a harsh email, a difficult decision, a stressful situation, write your thoughts in a journal before speaking or acting. This gives your emotions a safe outlet and helps you see your feelings clearly on paper rather than letting them explode outward. Many people have avoided arguments, mistakes, and regrets simply because they wrote things down first, then returned to the situation with a calmer perspective. Physical habits also play a big role in mental calmness. Regular exercise, even simple walks, help release built-up stress from the body. A tired, tense body often leads to a restless mind, while a healthy body supports emotional balance. Even your breathing patterns matter. Slow, deep breathing signals your nervous system to relax, telling your brain that it is safe to stay calm even when life feels chaotic. Finally, practice choosing your battles wisely. Not every situation deserves your energy. Many people exhaust themselves reacting to every comment, every inconvenience, every delay. But calmness grows when you learn to let go of small things and save your strength for what truly matters. This discipline allows you to face life's bigger challenges with a full tank of mental energy rather than arriving at them already drained by minor frustrations. Life will never ask for your permission before bringing chaos. It arrives uninvited, often at the worst possible time, and it comes in many forms. Financial struggles, unexpected job losses, sudden family emergencies, betrayals from people you trusted, or 1,000 small frustrations that pile up until they feel unbearable. When chaos hits, most people react the same way. They panic, they complain, they let fear take over. And in that emotional storm, they lose their ability to think clearly. Decisions made in panic rarely lead to good outcomes because panic blurs vision. It makes you focus only on the immediate pain while ignoring the bigger picture. This is why learning to stay calm in chaos is so important. Because calmness is the bridge between the storm and the solution, the difference between getting lost in the darkness and finding the way forward. When you stay calm, something remarkable happens. Your perspective begins to widen. You stop staring only at the problem and start noticing the possibilities hiding inside it. Chaos always feels final when emotions are loud, but calmness creates mental space to ask better questions. What can I learn from this? Where is the opportunity here? What can I control and what must I release? These questions turn you from a victim of circumstances into an active thinker looking for solutions. History is full of examples where people used calmness to see clearly while everyone else panicked. In business, leaders who remained steady during economic crashes often discovered opportunities others were too afraid to notice. In personal life, people who kept their composure during conflicts often saved relationships that anger would have destroyed. The chaos itself did not disappear overnight, but the ability to see through it changed everything. Think about a person standing in the middle of a storm with a lantern. Everyone else is running in fear, unable to see the path ahead, but the one who stands still, holding the light steady, becomes the guide for everyone else. That is what calmness does for you in chaotic times. It allows you to hold the lantern of clarity, not only for yourself, but also for others who are lost in panic. People naturally trust the one who can see clearly when no one else can. That is why calmness is not just a personal skill. It becomes a source of influence, leadership, and respect. It is also important to understand that clarity does not always mean instant answers. Sometimes chaos brings situations so complex that no immediate solution exists. But clarity begins with acceptance, acknowledging what is real rather than fighting it emotionally. Many people waste precious energy resisting reality, wishing things were different instead of facing them as they are. Calmness breaks that pattern. It helps you see the facts without exaggeration, without denial, without fear distorting the picture. From that point of honesty, real progress begins. Another powerful effect of calmness in chaos is creativity. When fear and anger dominate the mind, creativity dies because the brain enters survival mode, focusing only on danger. But when you stay calm, you free mental space for new ideas, for innovative thinking, for solutions no one else considered, because they were too busy reacting emotionally. Many breakthroughs in science, business, and even personal growth were born in times of chaos, but only in the minds that stayed calm enough to see possibilities where others saw only problems. Ultimately, chaos is not the enemy uncontrolled reactions are. Chaos will come whether you like it or not. But if you can remain calm, you can turn what seems like a dead end into a doorway, what feels like destruction into the beginning of something greater, simply because you had the clarity to look beyond the noise of the moment. When you look closely at the leaders people admire the most, whether in business community or even within families, you will notice one quality rising again and again above intelligence, above charisma, even above experience: the ability to stay calm under pressure. True leadership does not show itself when everything is going well. It reveals itself when things go wrong, when plans fail, when the unexpected happens and everyone else begins to lose their balance. In those moments, people naturally look toward the one who is steady, the one whose voice does not tremble, whose eyes do not show panic, whose decisions are not clouded by fear or anger. Calmness in crisis builds trust faster than any speech or title ever could, because it communicates a silent but powerful message. I am not controlled by the storm. I will find a way through it. People do not follow leaders because they never face problems. They follow them because in the middle of problems, they remain composed enough to see solutions. Imagine two captains leading two ships through a storm. One is shouting orders in panic, reacting wildly to every wave, changing directions repeatedly because fear is driving every decision. The other is calm, speaking clearly, studying the wind, guiding the crew with confidence even though the storm is fierce. Which captain would you trust with your life? Leadership works the same way in companies, in families, in communities. The calm leader becomes the anchor for everyone else, giving people a sense of safety even before the problem is solved. This is why calmness is not simply a personal strength, it is a leadership strategy. People are far more likely to listen to you, cooperate with you, and believe in your vision when they sense you are in control of yourself. A panicked leader may still be intelligent, but their energy spreads fear instead of confidence. On the other hand, a calm leader creates emotional stability for everyone around them. Employees facing uncertainty in a company crisis feel reassured when the leader speaks with composure. Families going through financial struggles feel less anxious when a parent remains steady instead of collapsing under the pressure. Calmness becomes the emotional shield protecting everyone from drowning in fear. Another reason calmness gives leaders such an advantage is decision-making. Leadership often involves making choices with incomplete information under time pressure and with high stakes attached. Panic narrows vision. It makes you focus only on immediate danger. But calmness widens perspective, allowing you to see long-term consequences, alternative options, and hidden opportunities. The best leaders in history, whether running nations or companies, were not the ones who avoided crisis. They were the ones who, in crisis, made clear strategic decisions while everyone else froze in fear or rushed into mistakes. Calmness also influences communication. People hear not only your words, but also your tone, your pace, your body language. A leader who speaks too quickly, too harshly, or too emotionally under pressure often transfers anxiety to everyone listening. But a leader who speaks slowly, with clarity and confidence, brings a sense of order to the chaos. It is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about saying, yes, this is hard, but here is what we will do next, in a way that makes people believe progress is possible. And perhaps most importantly, calmness in leadership inspires imitation. Teams, families, and organizations often mirror the emotional state of their leader. When the leader panics, everyone panics. When the leader stays calm, others find the courage to stay calm too. In this way, a leader's inner peace becomes a source of collective strength, shaping the atmosphere and influencing how others handle their own fears. Life has a way of testing every single one of us. No matter how careful we are, no matter how many plans we make, there comes a time when everything seems to fall apart at once. It could be the loss of a job you thought was secure, the sudden end of a relationship you believed would last forever, a health scare that shakes the ground beneath you, or the weight of responsibilities piling up until you feel you cannot carry them anymore. These are the storms of life, the moments when the future looks uncertain, when nothing seems to go as planned, when the pressure feels heavier than your strength. And in these moments, your ability to remain calm becomes more than just a skill. It becomes your survival tool, the very thing that determines whether the storm destroys you or teaches you how to rise stronger. When life hits hard, the natural reaction is to panic, to let fear and frustration take over. The mind begins to run in circles, imagining the worst outcomes, replaying mistakes, creating anxiety about things that have not even happened yet. But panic never solves problems. It only makes them look bigger than they are. Calmness, on the other hand, acts like an anchor in rough waters. It does not stop the waves from crashing, but it keeps you from being thrown off course. When you stay calm, you give yourself the gift of clarity, the ability to see what needs to be done next, instead of drowning in thoughts about everything that could go wrong. Think of people you have admired in your own life, perhaps a parent, a teacher, a friend, or even someone you worked with. The ones who stood out during tough times were not always the strongest physically or the smartest intellectually. Often, they were the ones who remained steady when everyone else was falling apart. They had a sense of composure that made you feel, if they are calm, maybe everything will be okay. That is the power of calmness during life's storms. It not only helps you think clearly, it gives strength to others who are struggling to find their own. Calmness also prevents regret. Many people, when faced with crises, say things they do not mean, make choices they later wish they could undo, or give up too soon because the pressure feels unbearable. But decisions made in panic often create new problems instead of solving the current one. When you stay calm, you slow the process down just enough to see the situation with a clear mind. You stop reacting blindly and start responding wisely, making choices that lead to solutions rather than more chaos. It is important to understand that staying calm does not mean you stop feeling pain, fear, or disappointment. It simply means you do not let those feelings control your actions. You acknowledge them, but you refuse to let them dictate your future. Life's storms will always bring emotions, sadness, anger, but calmness allows you to feel those emotions without being consumed by them. It gives you the strength to say, "This is hard, but I will not lose myself in it." And here is the truth: storms do not last forever. No matter how dark the clouds look right now, they eventually pass. But while the storm is raging, calmness allows you to hold on, to keep moving, to make the best decisions possible until the skies begin to clear. And when they do, you will look back and realize that it was not the size of the storm that defined you, but the strength of your calmness within it. So, when you look at everything we have discussed, the power of calmness, the danger of letting emotions control decisions, the truth that calmness is a skill, the daily practices that build it, the ability to turn chaos into clarity, the leadership edge it brings, and the strength it gives you in life's storms, you begin to see a simple but life-changing truth: calmness is not a luxury. It is a necessity. The world will never run out of challenges. There will always be uncertainty, conflict, unexpected change, and moments that test you to your core. But the people who rise above, the ones who lead with wisdom, who build stronger relationships, who create opportunities where others see only problems, they are not the loudest. They are not the most aggressive. They are not the ones who rush blindly into action. They are the ones who have trained their minds to remain calm when everything around them is shaking, because calmness gives you control over the one thing that matters most: yourself. You cannot control the economy, the weather, other people's actions, or every twist and turn of life, but you can control how you respond. And in that response lies your power, your wisdom, your future. So, starting today, practice it, build it, train it like a muscle. Pause before reacting, breathe before speaking. Think before deciding, learn to quiet the noise inside so you can see clearly no matter how loud the world becomes outside. Because when the next storm comes, and it will, the calmest person in the room will always be the one who finds the way forward.